time to make a move.
Jamaica, let's get moving again. Season 2 of the Ministry of Health and Wellness Jamaica Move series is here. Join us Wednesdays at 5 a.m. and Saturdays at 8 a.m. right here on CVM TV. Let's get moving.
Make a move now.
Jamaica, make we do the right thing. Make we live good today for a better tomorrow. Talk it out. Don't fight it out. The time by the Ministry of National Security is
6:30.
Jamaica gets its first finance minister. The Member of Parliament for Eastern St. Andrew, Favour Williams, has gotten the call by the Prime Minister. She's answered that call and she will serve as the finance minister. But with the departure of Dr. Nigel Clark and Favour Williams' assumption to his position, there are some other changes necessitated that the Prime Minister announced today. There's a movement concerning Dana Morris-Dixon. There's also the addition of, the reintroduction of Matthew Samuda to his old portfolio of water in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. We're going to discuss those changes in Lead Story, or on Lead Story this evening. CVM TV, it's late. Let's start the show. Welcome to Lead Story here on CVM TV. My name is George Davis. You would have heard earlier today the Prime Minister announcing changes to his cabinet. Dr. Nigel Clark out as Finance Minister. He jets off to Washington, D.C. to serve as Deputy Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund. That's old news. New news, and the current fresh news is that Favour Williams, the Member of Parliament for Eastern St. Andrew, former Minister of Education, she is now the woman in charge of the Finance Ministry. A first for a woman in Jamaica's history, that the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, or Ministry of Finance and Planning as it was before, that portfolio is being led by a woman. Dana Morris-Dixon, who was Minister of Information, Senator Dana Morris-Dixon, she's now in charge of education as well. And the other announcement by the Prime Minister concerning his executive sees Matthew Samuda, the recently elected Member of Parliament for North East St. Anne, being sworn in to reassume duties in the Water Ministry, where he was before leaving the Senate to make way for his election, the by-election in North East St. Anne. Of course, that is history. He won convincingly, and the Prime Minister did promise that he would return him to the Ministry of Water. Well, Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. He's in charge of water in that super ministry, and he kept his word with Matthew Samuda returning to that portfolio, sworn in earlier on this Wednesday. So those are the changes. There are some gaps that need to be plugged elsewhere, and also announced by the Prime Minister, by-elections in Ainan Town Division, in Clarendon, Morant Bay Division, in St. Thomas, and by-election in South Trelawney, and a by-election in Northwest St. Andrew, occasioned by the departure of Dr. Nigel Clark. Dwayne Smith is the man the JLP will send forward in that constituency, and out in South Trelawney, the woman that they refer to as Mama D, Marisa Dalrymple Philibert, is set to represent the party in that by-election in in November. That's when the by-election will be held in both those, all of those areas, those two constituencies and the two political divisions. We're going to take the first break, and when we return, we'll introduce our panel this evening to discuss these changes to the executive announced by the Prime Minister today, and even the announcement of the by-elections.
lay nothing down on a shiny, brand new Hyundai vehicle with free loan payments until March 2025. Yes, get a 2024 Hyundai vehicle and get free loan payments until March 2025. 100% financing, 2 years free service, zero processing fees, and other sweet goodies. Drive into the new year with your new ride. Goodbye, old car. Hello, Hyundai. Hyundai. For free payments promotion. Limited stock available. Offer while stocks last. Conditions apply.
With us here on Lead Story, I'm going to speak with Saeed Bernard. He is an attorney at law. He's a Chevening scholar. He's actually in the UK as we speak, dealing with that part of his personal development where the Chevening scholarship is concerned. And Dr. Nadine Spence is a political commentator and a public commentator, social commentator, and of course she has expertise in the area of politics as well, from the analyst's perspective. Saeed, good evening. It's good night where you are. Thank you for staying up and joining me here on Lead Story.
Always a pleasure to chat with you, George.
Good. All right. So there has been some shuffling of the deck occasioned by the departure of Dr. Nigel Clarke. Favour Williams creating history today. Good appointment, bad appointment, or you're withholding your verdict?
As it relates to Favour Williams, first of all, she has the qualifications, no doubt. You can never doubt that at all. Her education, first of all, Wharton Business School, Harvard, her professional experience in Jamaica and abroad is spectacular. What has happened is, in politics, you also need personality to go with particular posts to win a bind. That's just the reality of our political landscape. And so it remains to be seen whether in this space where one could argue that Favour will be most comfortable, given that she's used to the numbers, used to the finance, this might be a very comfortable space for her. I would love to wait and see if that allows for her to blossom and to show what the Jamaicans have been hoping for and what they've experienced with Dr. Nigel Clarke. The issue is, George, is that Dr. Clarke has sort of, given a context, a shoes that needs to be filled, and I'm afraid she was judged in comparison to that. I, for one, will not be holding her to that comparison. I think she can, in her own way, make good of the post and still get the buy-in of the people. And so that really remains to be seen as it relates to her performance in the post.
In this same studio that I'm sitting now, Saeed, Dr. Nigel Clarke, one of his last interviews to the media after he had announced that he was going to the IMF, he said to me that the greatest characteristic that his successor would need to have is the ability to say no. When I drill down into what he meant, he says, look, you're going to come under pressure from your colleagues to do certain things for certain outcomes to be realized. And he said, look, you have to be firm. You have to be able to explain why you have to be able to say no and explain why you're saying no. The people will demand certain things. You have to be able to say no and explain why no is the answer and is the best thing at that particular time. Do you see Mrs. Williams having the capacity to say no and give an acceptable explanation as to why no is the order of the day?
Absolutely, George. First of all, if that was the only criteria for the job, I would lock my eyes right now and say that she will be the best finance minister we've ever seen. Because what people don't understand about the personality of Favour Williams is that she's calm but quite deadly. And again, with her professional experience, having interacted with her myself personally, both in my capacity as a journalist, but also as a citizen, she does have that capacity. And you will also recognize that even in the education sector, the Ministry of Education, and she gets a lot of slack for it, even when there's a noise and the furore, she's always calm and deadly at times. In the finance ministry, arguably the most important minister, and again, in her Aki, as we would call it, I have no doubt whatsoever that she'll be able to do that. And no less as the first female Minister of Finance, I have absolutely no doubt that she fits perfectly when it comes to that criteria.
Yeah. On the issue of timing, though, we're talking about an appointment. We're in September, we're in October now, so we're less than a year officially from when the next general election is constitutionally due. Do you think, well, how do you think that played into the decision by the Prime Minister, given that effectively he's appointed someone to hold the position rather than maybe even thought of someone who is long-term the ideal appointment? How do you think the proximity of the election played a role, if indeed it played a role in the decision that Holness eventually made?
Well, I would like to think it plays a role. Any prime minister who is reshuffling cabinet is also thinking about when he will next call the post to position the party and the government to be in their best stead going forward into that election. I think this year, as we'll call it, is trial and error with testing Minister Williams in the role. And going from there, they will seek to see how best they could get some long-term replacement if needed. And so right now, they'll be evaluating, they'll be assessing on a month-to-month basis, I would imagine, to see what takes place leading up to a general election. But no doubt, George, that would have been in the thought, I'd hope, of the Prime Minister, whose prerogative it is to appoint this minister.
Dr. Spence, I'm introducing Dr. Nadine Spence to the conversation. Good evening, Dr. Spence. Are you hearing me?
Good evening, I'm hearing you.
All right, here's this thing. Favour Williams is a history maker in many respects. First woman, as we've been saying, to be appointed to the role of finance minister, as the legendary, in my eyes, Carlwyn, the late former Gleaner columnist, wrote. He referred to the finance minister as the keeper of the national thread bag. And so she is now the keeper of the national thread bag. But watch this. She's also created history, Dr. Spence, in being the first finance minister to occupy a weather vane seat. In other words, she's the first finance minister to not sit in a safe political seat. What are the implications of that heading into a general election, you believe?
Well, now that you've brought that up, because I hadn't thought about that before, it brings a certain kind of uncertainty, right? To her continuing to serve in the next government if the JLP were to win the seat. And for example, she were not to win the government and she didn't win the seat, her seat. So it's something to think about. I haven't thought long enough about it to think about the consequences of that, but I think there is a kind of certainty, I guess, in the Prime Minister's appointment of her to this post, a certainty in respect of her capacity. I remember just reflecting on what he said this morning, that she's not only qualified in respect of her resume and her academic accomplishments, she's also qualified in respect of her experience, as she has already served in the Ministry of Finance. Mm-hmm. So I think in his mind, at this moment, she is the best fit, given the situation presented. Remember, Nigel Clark's resignation, I don't think was expected. But this moment having presented itself, of the people, I think in his cabinet, he thought she was the best one to occupy the position. She has the experience and she has the academic qualification. So I think regardless of what might come in an election, the Prime Minister's confidence in her capacity shone through today.
Yeah. All right, let's take the break so that we can pin some additional time on the other side. And I'll continue the line of questioning with Dr. Nadine Spence and Saeed Bernard as we look at the appointment of Favour Williams as Minister of Finance and the Public Service and a couple of other changes the Prime Minister made to the cabinet earlier on this Wednesday.
Jamaica Food and Drink Festival's Meat Street and the Market is back in partnership with the Port Authority of Jamaica. Saturday, November 9, 3 to 10 p.m. at the historic Naval Dockyard in Port Royal, Kingston. Food trucks, restaurants, and chefs galore. Enjoy CV pan chicken, Helsha style fish, gourmet pastas, veggie delights, street eats, and so much more. Guided tours, live entertainment, and kids zone. Park and ride with JUTC. Meat Street and the Market. Saturday, November 9. Adults 2,000, children under 10 free. Tickets at JA Food and Drink Kitchen on Cork Constant Spring, Candy Craze Waterloo, CPJ Market, and Geno's Pharmacy Portmore. Pay with Visa or buy online at jafoodanddrink.com.
When the food speeds, we dance. When the vibe nice.
The time by Grace. Taste that moves you is
6:45.
Pay nothing down on a shiny, brand new Hyundai vehicle with free loan payments until March 2025. Yes, get a 2024 Hyundai vehicle and get free loan payments until March 2025. 100% financing, 2 years free service, 0 processing fees, and other sweet goodies. Drive into the new year with your new ride. Goodbye, old car. Hello, Hyundai. Hyundai. For free payments promotion. Limited stock available. Offer while stocks last. Conditions apply.
Back with us on Lead Story here on CVM TV. Favour Williams' qualifications read like this. Not only is she the Member of Parliament for Eastern St. Andrew, but her educational qualifications read like this. If we could get that graphic, please. Thank you. She graduated with a BA in economics from Harvard in Massachusetts, MBA with concentration in finance from the Wharton Business School at the University of Pennsylvania. She has served as state minister in the Ministry of Finance previously, and of course, she served as Minister of Education. Of course, I see a narrative emerging about what are her qualifications for the job. The men who've held the post before her, many of them have not had any formal training in finance or economics, and many of them trained in the law, and they still served. So I don't see that the sensible people should not entertain the argument about qualifications on paper for the job, because as we saw there, Mrs. Williams is eminently qualified if paper qualifications are what should satisfy many people's appetite for a finance minister who has the training to do the job. Back to the analysis now. So here's the thing, Dr. Spence. I know you say you didn't think about the safe seat issue before, but it is a significant one, because when you look, and I'll just walk you back through history. The gentlemen who've held the position before her, I'm going to name someone, may forget a few. Donald Sangster, Sir Donald Sangster, Noel Crab Nethersole, he of Nethersole Place, BOJ fame, Vernon Arnett, PJ Patterson, Dr. Omar Davis, Hugh Small served for a while, Edward Siaga served, Audley Shaw, Dr. Omar Davis, all of this. These gentlemen were in seats that they did not have to do much political work in an election campaign, so they could still, of course, pay rapt attention to the country's finances at that difficult time. You're talking about asking a woman who's defending a majority of about less than 200, maybe about 170, if my memory is correct, from the last general election. And you know, Dr. Spence, Saeed Bernard, you also know, the party that wins Eastern St. Andrew and the Southwest St. Elizabeth is guaranteed Jamaica House. History is never wrong. Those two seats are the two most weather vane of weather vane seats. Isn't it risky to ask Mrs. Williams to devote so much time to managing the country's finances at the same time that you're asking her to defend a majority of less than 200 in a seat as important as Eastern St. Andrew?
It is risky. It is risky. This, as you said, this is not a safe seat. So in respect of her own likely loss or win at the polls, the party must be thinking extensively of that. I'm sure that they would have thought about it and thought about the additional support she would need in her constituency to ensure that even as her time becomes occupied with that of the role she will play as a minister of Finance, that she will need additional support in her constituency to ensure her presence is shored up, and to also ensure that those labor rights who would have normally voted and would have normally given the party a win are able to continue to do the work to ensure that they turn up on election day and vote to keep her in the seat. But as well, I think one of the things you mentioned, Nigel Clark's interview with you. I think one of the things I got from Nigel Clark's presentation, the Prime Minister's presentation, is that she's also there to hold the fort. That what the government is doing now as it relates to finance is looking for somebody who can execute the kind of discipline that is necessary to keep the country on track and to kind of finish the execution of the commitments that had been made by the previous Minister of Finance.
Yeah.
So I don't think we are going to see a whole heap of dramatic changes in the finance ministry. I think we were on track as a country for the country's finances to be executed a particular way, and for the transformation of the public service to be executed a particular way. And those were highlighted by the previous minister. And I think her job is to stay the course and ensure that those plans are executed and those promises are delivered as the previous minister had outlined.
Yeah. Saeed, let me come to you with this. We love in this country to laud the hero, the minister who's so brilliant beyond reason, and it's they alone responsible for the success of their ministry. Nigel Clark got a lot of plaudits, a lot of it justifiable, but are we downplaying the fact of the strength of the technocrats at the finance ministry to give him the support that has allowed him to put the country in this position? And are we, by that same token, not making enough of this strength of structure and the quality of personnel at Mrs. Williams' disposal at the finance ministry to keep her on track for the time that she will be in charge of the country's finances?
Yeah, that's exactly it, George. The Ministry of Finance has crazy capacity, really. And if you look at, for example, the jobs that are advertised and the criteria, the qualifications that are needed, the people there with the experience, you'd not be surprised as to how the ministry has been operating. Sure, what Dr. Clark gets a lot of credit for was his ability to communicate the information. What he got a lot of credit for was his ability to draw people into a budget debate. You don't get that all the time. And so that is what a lot of people will be watching for, not of her ability to do the job, not of her ability to make policy decisions, not of the ministry's technocratic ability to get these things done. They'll more be watching to see if she will be able to communicate and get people to buy in to what the government's policy and plan is economically. And again, that is what I think she'll be judged the most for.
Yeah. Dr. Spence, it was woman time before Portia Lucretia Simpson Miller ascended to the post of Prime Minister, but it's certainly been woman time since her ascension. And we're talking about a woman as Finance Minister and another woman as Education Minister, Senator Dana Morris Dixon. Education, information, and a couple, I don't want to call them minor portfolios because you're going to stoke controversy with that. But this woman now has charge of the Education Ministry and as the government's main spokesperson. Education and information have been twined before to some degree of success, especially by the brilliant Burchell Whiteman. Is this too much for Dr. Morris Dixon, who's also in charge of digital transformation, or does she have the capacity, you believe, to handle it until election time?
I think she has the capacity to do so. I think one of the things I remember I had a book a couple of years ago. I probably still have it somewhere in my office. I said, leaders are learners, and the first act of leading is learning. And I think that is one of the things you will notice with Senator Morris Dixon, is that she has this capacity to learn, and we've seen her blossom in the post that she's in. We've seen her take on this responsibility with a seriousness of purpose and execute it very well. So I have no doubt that she will take on this one as Minister of Education. I think the problem, probably not a problem, but the particular reality of the Ministry of Education is that teachers, most of the attention of it is focused on teachers, unfortunately. And teachers don't necessarily like to be led by somebody who is not a teacher. I think that's one of the reasons why they gave the previous minister, Williams, such a hard time. So the question is whether or not she can win the hearts and minds of the Jamaica Teachers Association and Jamaica's teachers. She's a good communicator, and as you said, the communication portfolio is doing this not the first time. Remember, Robert Morgan was a junior minister to Miss Williams, to Minister Williams in that ministry before he was but he had the responsibility for what, youth and information at that time, I think, before he was moved out. So I mean, I have no doubt that we will see interesting conversations emerging about education, and I think the twins with skills and I don't remember the next one, George, call it
digital transformation, right? That's fine. We'll put it out in the public domain.
I think with both education and information and youth, they rest comfortably together. So let's see what she makes of it. I think she has the capacity to do it. I've watched how she has executed her responsibilities in the portfolio of Ministry of Education, have admired how she's done it. I'm willing to see what else she brings to the picture in this new responsibility.
Hear you on that. Thank you very much for your time, ladies and gentlemen. That's my time. Well, here's the thing. Favour Williams, it's a bold move by the Prime Minister, as I said. He is going against history here with the appointment, Eastern St. Andrew. Just go and read up the history of Eastern St. Andrew. There are 2 seats in the 63 that are contested at general election time. Now, when you see those trending in one direction, you can call the election. Eastern St. Andrew and Southwest St. Elizabeth, they never get the national picture wrong. And Favour Williams is defending not a wafer-thin majority, but a thin majority in the constituency. And it remains to be seen how it will play out. But in terms of her qualification, her temperament, her overall game intelligence for the portfolio, I have no doubt that she has what it takes. But there are some intangibles. The issue of communicating, Dr. Nigel Clark was a master, as Saeed said, at putting regular people into the budget debate and communicating in a way so that everybody understood. That would be perhaps Favour Williams' greatest challenge. I make way now for the news at 7 with the outstanding Nico Lewis waiting in the wings to deliver the headlines for you, the big stories.
Thank you so much, George. I love the time.
Hi everyone, my name is Kurt Dunn.
Greetings from Kali's Kelly Yoga.
Hey, it's Travin Morrison, and I am your National Physical Activity Specialist. And it's time to make a move.
Jamaica, let's get moving again. Season 2 of the Ministry of Health and Wellness Jamaica Move series is here. Join us Wednesdays at 5 a.m. and Saturdays at 8 a.m. right here on CVM TV. Let's get moving.
Make a move now.
The internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winfred Williams.
At a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
So much more than entertainment.
Small business owners and independent contractors get affordable insurance with Sagicor Pro Shield. The time by Sagicor Life is
7 o'clock.
CVM News at 7 Wednesday headlines, courtesy of Heart NSTA Trust, Jamaica's Human Development Agency.
Tonight in CVM News at 7, historic appointment. Favour Williams is the country's new finance minister. 4 by-elections announced at the constituency and municipal levels. No free ride. NCB customers complain about back Uber charges. And Curlin Brown updates you on the tragic incident at Campion College. In the business Business Report, making your mark with service excellence. And in sports, Pride beat Scorpions by 24 runs. It's Wednesday, October 30, 2024. Thanks for joining us. Well, Fayval Williams is Jamaica's new finance minister, the first woman ever to hold this role. Prime Minister Andrew Holness announced her appointment early Wednesday, signaling a bold shift in his administration's priorities. There's also a new education minister and a familiar face returning to the cabinet. With more, here's Ramon Gordon.
Early Wednesday, Prime Minister Andrew Holness announced a historic cabinet appointment in selecting Fayval Williams as Jamaica's first woman finance minister. The reshuffle follows the departure of Dr. Nigel Clark, who left for the International Monetary Fund today. At a media briefing, Prime Minister Holness praised Williams, a financial expert and former Morgan Stanley analyst, as someone who embodies the fiscal discipline central to his administration's policies.
The idea, of course, is to ensure that whoever is in the Ministry of Finance is a disciple.
Williams previously held roles in the financial sector and brings extensive experience to the post. Holness believes her background and dedication align well with the government's fiscal objectives.
So the decision would also be on the basis of what would be the least disruptive to the operations of the government. And if I were to start to move the ministers around too often, projects that they have started, that they need to see through, things that are important to achieve, that could be disrupted and it could set the government behind.
The new cabinet configuration also includes Dr. Dana Morris-Dixon as Minister of Education, Youth and Information, while Matthew Samuda resumes his role as Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. Holness described these appointments as strategic moves to foster human capital development and economic stability as his administration prepares to, quote, pivot.
It's a pivot towards an aggressive pursuit of growth. And believe me when I say we're going to be vicious in that regard.
I assure you, I am ready to work tirelessly to continue to make this vision a reality.
Ramon Gordon for CVM News.
So none of the three people we just spoke about are strangers at this point. However, our reporter Ramon Gordon now tells us a little more about these members of the executive. Ramon, a big day on the political scene.
Nika, certainly. Let's start with Fayval Williams. She's making history as the first woman to step into the role as Minister of Finance and the Public Service. She brings an impressive resume, holding both an MBA from Wharton Business School with a focus in finance and a bachelor's in economics from Harvard University. Not only is she a chartered financial analyst, but Fayval also started her career as a teller at Bank of Nova Scotia in Kingston, then moved to the US where she worked as an analyst for Morgan Stanley before entering politics. Moving on to the new face, or the returning face rather, his name is Matthew Samuda, Nika. After 8 years in the Senate, he resigned this past September to successfully contest the Northeast St. Anne by-election. His time in the Senate saw him pushing hard for national security and environmental causes. In fact, it was his 2016 motion that eventually led to the ban on single-use plastics and styrofoam in Jamaica. Beyond politics, Matthew is active in youth organizations and keeps advocating for Jamaica's environment. Moving on to Dr. Dana Morris-Dixon. Now, she joined the Senate and the Cabinet in May 2023. She's a newcomer and comes with a remarkable background. She's a Fulbright scholar and graduate of the University of the West Indies. She also holds a PhD in international studies and completed an executive program at Harvard Business School. Dr. Dixon has led several high-stakes projects, including the reorganization of the JN Group in 2017 that led to the launch of the JN Bank. Nika, she's known for her leadership and, of course, her strategic vision.
Well, there you have it. Thank you so much, Ramon. And with that announcement, we take reactions to the news, not only from political commentators, but from the opposition spokesperson on finance himself, Julian Robinson. Trisha Gay Kelly has that story.
Since the Prime Minister's announcement, many have expressed varied reactions to the news, with some even sending congratulatory messages. But based on most reactions, Minister Favour Williams is the best candidate for the position of Finance Minister. Even the opposition finance spokesperson agrees.
I think based on the pool of available MPs on the government side, I think Favour Williams is the only logical choice to be the Minister of Finance. She has had previous experience in that ministry, and she would have an understanding of the issues that a Minister of Finance would have to deal with, because she served as a minister without portfolio. So it's not a surprise that she has been chosen, and I believe of the available pool there, she would be best able to hit the ground running.
Some political commentators share the same view. However, some express concern that after reviewing her tenure in the education sector, the public may have questions about how she will fare in a more complicated ministry. Despite these concerns, political commentator Sondre Roden believes Mrs. Williams is still the best candidate for the position.
Who else to take it on? Meaning she would have already been in the trenches as it relates to the finances of the country. So it would be a natural fit, an easy move, and then eventually, I think over time, as Mr. Gordon would have said, we'll see how she morphs into this role, as it may be the best role for her expertise. So even if people had questions of her education portfolio, we may see a more likely fit for this ministry.
Minister Williams was formerly minister without portfolio at the Finance Ministry, giving her an edge over other competitors. Senator Dana Morris Dixon will fill the vacancy at Education. Political commentator Damian Gordon says Morris Dixon is also a good choice.
She has served on several committees of government. Some of them are education related. She has background in spearheading organizations and projects, and in terms of also spearheading transformational initiatives. So I have no doubt that she has a capacity to pioneer transformational initiatives.
Trisha Gay Kelly, CVM News.
Meanwhile, 4 by-elections were announced today in the post-cabinet media briefing by the Prime Minister and the local government minister. These included the contentious seat out there in southern Trelawney, and the JLP's candidate will be none other than Marissa Dalrymple Philibert. With more, here again is Ramon Gordon.
The wait is now over for residents in Trelawney Southern, who on November 22 will have the chance to elect a new local representative. In a long-anticipated move, Prime Minister Andrew Holness has announced that former Member of Parliament Marissa Dalrymple Philibert will be the Jamaica Labour Party's candidate.
It's difficult to speak for Marissa as to why she resigned and then she's coming back. And I'm sure she will give an explanation. But my own view is that she really respected the perspectives of the public with whatever was accusations were laid in the public domain.
Dalrymple, who resigned in September 2023 amid pressure surrounding 8 charges from the Integrity Commission, has received an outpouring of support from JLP members in the area. Scores of supporters recently gathered in Albert Town Square, calling for her return, but at least one commentator thinks it's not a good look.
It's not a good optic, considering that the Prime Minister is now under the public microscope for, matters related to the ICs, and there's the public there's significant public concern and opinion about, the Prime Minister in relation to IC. And Marissa, she was also the subject of a similar investigation, and her name was not necessarily being cleared.
A parish court judge will decide on December 6 whether to dismiss the IC's case against Philibert, in which her attorney claims procedural errors and abuse of process. While that situation awaits resolution, another commentator maintains she's likely the JLP's best pick.
It would be hard-pressed for the Jamaica Labour Party, who has strong competition, to not put her back in. I agree that there are optics issues, but right now I think both parties are looking to their bases and how they actually retain power or gain power.
This by-election will coincide with another in St. Andrew Northwestern, with nomination day for both constituencies set for November 6. Additionally, Municipal elections are set to take place in the St. Thomas and Clarendon divisions due to recent vacancies. These local elections will also follow the same schedule, with Nomination Day on November 6 and Election Day on November 22. Ramon Gordon for CVM News.
There's more to come from CVM News at 7 after this break.
CVM News at 7 Wednesday headlines, courtesy of Heart NSDA Trust, Jamaica's Human Development Agency.
As a contractor, I never work without a plan.
As an electrician, protection is always a priority.
If you're a small business owner or an independent contractor, there's a plan that gives you protection and coverage. Sagicor Pro Shield. Get up to $1 million critical illness coverage and cover up to 80% of your medical costs for as little as $13,650 every 3 months. Get the protection you need with Sagicor Pro Shield. Call 888-SAGICOR. Conditions apply.
Fish farmers and all fishermen get your new way to get a license in your hand.
Rotted. Johnny, your bag. Jump in the water, fisherman license tonight.
Don't worry about that, man.
Accidents do happen, but easy application for your fishing license from your smartphone makes things a little easier. iRefins allows you to register for any fishing license, permit, or authorization anytime, anywhere. With iRefins, you get faster processing times when you register online from any mobile device or computer. A new system, the iRefins system for fishers like
me
and me.
And me.
Ask about iRefins, the new system for fishers and fish farmers. Register today for an easier way. iRefins is a joint project of the National Fisheries Authority and the Transformation Implementation Unit.
That's it. We're closed. I am so sorry. We only have 3 parties left.
It's a Jamaican thing, but full of flavor. Hey. We set the trend style major. Juicy patty, happy savor. You know the party nice when we do the juicy patty bone. Patty bone, patty bone, watch it bones. Hot patty, watch it steam. Juicy patty bone, patty bone, watch it bones. Juicy patty, ready for we go. From food I keep in our party. Juicy patty, have something for everybody. So patty for nice. Patty bones, watch it bones. Hot patty, watch it steam. Juicy patty bones. Grab your family and do the juicy patty bones.
Oreo and Coca-Cola just became besties. Taste the new limited editions while they last.
Improving our relationship with you.
The Passport Immigration and Citizenship Agency, PICA, is improving its relationship with you, our valued customer. Our new customer relationship management system will help us to better understand your needs, communicate with you, and address your issues faster. Contact us online and let us help you. The new system is a joint project of PICA and the Transformation Implementation Unit.
Improving our relationship.
Building a better public sector for all.
CVM News at 7 headlines Tuesday, courtesy of Heart NSDA Trust, Jamaica's Human Development Agency.
Welcome back. Now on a somber note, only administrative and office staff completed regular shifts at Campion College on Wednesday following Tuesday's tragic incident involving a rugby player during training on the compound. Classes were dismissed early after counseling psychologists from the Ministry of Education and Youth and the school's guidance department engaged students, one-on-one and in groups. Curlin Brown visited the campus for a follow-up, having done the story on the day. A tough one, no doubt, Curlin.
Definitely, Nika, very tough one. And can I tell you, from the offset, we could tell that we're not going to get much from the school. But interestingly, towards the latter part of the afternoon, I found some persons who knew a little about the youngster. So Rashad Richards was popular in St. Ann, where he was born. He was an A student, a top boy from kindergarten through to grade 6 at Columbus Prep. Rashad was living his dreams in Kingston under the guidance of a relative, having earned one of the government scholarships from Columbus to Campion, the high school of his choice. Now back home in Bel Air, his parents and his sister, who is in grade 2, are devastated by the news of his death. So too are his former principal and teachers, his friends. He was close to perfect, said one loved one, trying to maintain composure. He was such a sweet child, not one to be on the playground during recess or at lunchtime. It was the worst news his parents could be told. They are inconsolable, said a friend who visited them and who described Rashad as well-focused, a disciplined child who was always reading and studying. And speaking of studying, I visited Campion College earlier, where Rashad was a second former. The investigation into his death is at a delicate stage, and we are mindful of that. We are also understanding the significance of updating the public on a situation that affects a nation.
Except for a few children waiting to be picked up after the scheduled early adjustment to the usual time of dismissal, 105 Hope Road was on Wednesday void of the laughter and the movements of boys and girls. A text notified all concerned it would not be a normal day at school. Quote, "We know that many of you will want to reach out to Rashad's family. We ask that you direct all messages of condolence through the school office, allowing the family the space they need during this time of grief. But there was no room for the media at the school. Even with gates swung wide open, we would eventually find out after being stopped on way to the main office and ushered out. There was no explanation, just that the instructions were direct. Strictly no media would be accommodated at this time." Psychologists and counselors from the Ministry of Education and the Guidance Department at Campion, however, engaged the students one-on-one and in groups. It's alleged Rashad fell from a goalpost which fell on him and he died from injuries to the head.
It's a rainy afternoon. It's Minister 2 and the usual energetic atmosphere is missing. A child is dead. A family, a school, an extended population struggle to comprehend and to process this tragic incident. Reporting from Campion College, this is Carolyn Brown for CVM News.
In other news now, social media platform X, previously known as Twitter, was ablaze last night as angry National Commercial Bank customers discovered deductions from their accounts for Uber ride payments. Here's Britannia Witter with the details.
Customers of National Commercial Bank are expressing frustration over deductions from their Visa debit card accounts for Uber rides taken months ago, as they are now left to deal with the collective withdrawal of funds in one go. The complaints have flooded social media, with many alleging the bank did not provide adequate explanations for processing the deductions. Several users are reporting that charges for the rides were not reversed, while some admit to being aware of the fault in the system but continued to use the popular rideshare app for free rides. One customer who wishes to remain anonymous says when she contacted the bank, she was unable to get a representative for an update on the matter. She told CVM News that she's disappointed in the way NCB is handling the situation.
So the established company like NCB, I did not expect this manner from them. Taking lump sums from persons at NCB don't even get paid that much. How do they expect average Jamaicans to be paying this amount of money? A professional, they should have approached the consumers, approach them with a payment plan and explain what's going on. But lump sums? That's ridiculous. This is horrible business.
She's now left to repay Uber charges while settling an existing loan on the same NCB account.
I'll never be using an NCB account again. And the messed up thing about it, I have a loan on the same account. How do I pay for the loan if every dollar that goes to my account is going towards Uber? They're messing up persons for poverty. They're messing up persons' lives. It's ridiculous, man.
In response to the backlash, NCB released a statement citing that it has identified and is working to address the issue affecting users. According to NCB, approximately 1% of their Visa debit card holders, over 8,000 accounts, have been impacted with transactions dating back to the period of May 2024. With promises to update customers as new information becomes available, the bank admits to temporarily freezing about 300 accounts for further investigation due to unusually high volumes and the type of Uber transactions. Britannia Witter, CVM News.
We take a break on CVM News at 7. Stay with us.
Wednesday, courtesy of
Your love lives on with life insurance from Sagicor.
Yeah man, make some noise because Burger King Double Deal Big 2 is back. The $16.50 you get 2 whole of Burger King combo is a win-win. Big 2 combos, Whopper Junior Cheese with bacon, American Chicken Sandwich or Big Fish Sandwich combo for only $16.50. Spend one money, win 2 times. Food for me and my party are just for me, cause me hungry right now. Myself and I go hungry later. You see it? One money, 2 food. Listen, one money, 2 food. Win-win. Burger King Double Deal Big 2.
Hi, my name is Tony Gray, and I am an engineering intern at JPS. I have recently completed my studies at the University of Technology Jamaica.
That was me back in 2022. Today, I'm a full-time employee at JPS working as a grid planning engineer. I focus on new trends to help prepare for the electric grid of the future that you will benefit from. And the teams here really support me as a young professional. Thank you, JPS, for a chance to shine.
JPS, powering the youth, powering what matters.
Fish farmers and all fishermen get your new way for get a license in your hand. I refit.
Brought it. Johnny, your bag. Jump in the water, fisherman license tonight.
Don't worry about that, man.
Accidents do happen, but easy application for your fishing license from your smartphone makes things a little easier. iRefit allows you to register for any fishing license, permit, or authorization anytime, anywhere. With iRefit, you get faster processing times when you register online from any mobile device or computer. A new system, the iRefit system for fishers like
me
and me.
And me.
Ask about iRefit, the new system for fishers and fish farmers. Register today for an easier way.
iRefit is a joint project of the National Fisheries Authority and the Transformation Implementation Unit.
Thanks for staying with us. It's now time for a look at what's happening on our digital pages.
So, what's trending in our local social media spaces? Jamaica's new finance minister is Favour Williams, replacing Dr. Nigel Clark. Prime Minister Andrew Holness announced the change today. Additionally, Senator Dr. Dana Morris-Dixon adds education to her portfolio, and Matthew Samuda rejoins the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. Here are some of your reactions. At Sunjamari_13 writes, "Woman me say, every time. Congratulations, Miss Williams." At Niche876 shares, "Go through Favour. Let's see what you got on this side of the house." At ShareXO posts, "She sounds humble as Mr. Nigel Clark." At Alessal Bedev says, "Woman in leadership." At Jabba_Wellington comments, "Congratulations, Minister Favour Williams. Now, I urge you to break the fold and actually do the work that has been bestowed upon you. Be accountable. You are in your niche now. Show us what you've got." At Hewitt2000 says, "Knew that long ago." At NCB Wiretown asks, "Did they just do rock, paper, scissors on this?" And that's what's trending online today. Continue to share your thoughts with us on X at CVM TV and CVM_television on Instagram. I'm Ronaldo Adams.
A look now overseas with regional and international news.
We begin with news in the region. In Barbados, top United Nations Development Programme UNDP officials arrived on the island yesterday ahead of the 16th Ministerial Forum on Development in Latin America and the Caribbean. The forum, which is a space to discuss opportunities to build resilience against future shocks that continue to challenge development in the region, is expected to have over 150 participants, including more than 20 government delegations. We hear more from CBC News Barbados.
Have become a voice on the global stage, and together I think we are seeing, in a world that is very ruptured and very divided at the moment, a very clear voice and clarion call coming from Barbados, from your Prime Minister, but also from the Caribbean as a whole and Latin America, on the world having to focus on not conflicts and confrontation, but finding ways to cooperate and to collaborate.
And the very important conference for Latin America and the Caribbean, which they're here to attend, is going to be speaking in large measure to the question of resilience on the part of small states and our capacity to make sure that that resilience reflects also not just the theory of the financial challenges that we face in the country and the need to adjust and adapt in the context of climate, but what it really means for the average human being.
In Trinidad and Tobago, reducing landfill waste, pollution and flooding by encouraging the recycling of materials such as PET, HDPE and Tetra Pak containers is the aim of the Catalyzing and Connecting the Circular Economy CCCE project. The CCCE is funded by the Inter-American Development Bank Innovation Laboratory. More from TTT News.
Speaking at the project closing symposium, newly appointed Chief Executive Officer of the Cropper Foundation, Charisse Braffett Joseph, said the project is built on 4 key pillars.
1. Driving behavioral change through national and localized campaigns to shift attitudes towards recycling. 2. Piloting a recycling process via a partnership with Blue Waters, Caribbean Bottlers and Nestle. 3. Engaging stakeholders by bringing public, private and civil society actors together to support recycling efforts. And 4, supporting circular economy businesses with mentorship and seed funding.
She said originally the campaign was focused on recycling. However, after a focused collaborative process, it was decided that another campaign strictly around recycling was not quite needed at this time.
It was felt that what we needed was some positive, uplifting messages around existing options and examples in support of the 5 R's: reduce, reuse, repair, repurpose, and recycle. Ones that emphasize good habits we grew up with, the good work of those that's already addressing the issue of waste in various spheres of influence, and all the many good reasons we must do our part to reduce waste.
And in international news, in Spain, at least 95 people have been killed in flash floods in the southeast of the country. The government has declared 3 days of mourning. The Spanish Prime Minister has described the flooding as the worst this century. Al Jazeera provides the latest.
Warnings were given, but few imagined anything like this. In one area of Valencia, as much rainfall as they'd expect in a year fell in a day. Flash floods swept cars away, sometimes stacking them in the streets. The surge of the floodwaters took people by surprise. Spain's Prime Minister addressed the nation.
España entera llora con todos y con todas.
The whole of Spain is crying with all of you. Our absolute priority is to help you. We are working in a coordinated manner to make this possible.
The Spanish government deployed helicopter crews, engaging in dramatic rescues. On the ground, specialist teams used whatever means possible to bring the young, the elderly, the most vulnerable to safety. Search teams were breaking into homes, going from house to house. They were dealing with multiple cases of missing people.
A house at the entrance of the town just disappeared after the flash floods, and there are at least 2 people who officials don't know if they are still missing or not.
And that's it for regional and international news.
Lots more to come after this break.
JN Bank Small Business Loans is linked to so many stories of ordinary Jamaicans and their extraordinary success.
We're very proud to have helped small, medium, and micro businesses come to life and thrive over the years.
It's a demonstration of our strong belief in the business ambitions of Jamaicans. Come, talk to us. Tell us your business. Let's start a partnership and let your business plans appear in real life.
We a big deal when we touch ground. Yeah, a KFC when we're pulling up. Anything for the taste of a KFC, big deal. The time by KFC is
improving our relationship with you.
The Passport, Immigration and Citizenship Agency, PICA, is improving its relationship with you, our valued customer. Our new customer relationship management system will help us to better understand your needs, communicate with you, and address your issues faster. Contact us online and let us help you. The new system is a joint project of PICA and the Transformation Implementation Unit.
Improving our relationship.
Building a better public sector for all.
Welcome back. It's now time for the Business Report with Joel Crossgill.
Lots to share with you in the Business Report today, as the third annual Business and Personal Etiquette Conference, staged by the Make Your Mark Group, explored the connections between organizational resilience, service excellence, and etiquette. In his statement to those gathered, President of the JMEA, Sidney Thwaites, highlighted authenticity as another key element within the pursuit.
Culture cannot be faked. People recognize that. When somebody jumps up and they're nicey and that's great and it can be effective, but it's really learning how to connect with people. It's your colleagues. We don't have to love everyone and be best friends with everyone, but we can find a common ground. We can find some commonality. We can find some commonness in our goals, in our what we stand for.
And for guest speaker, Minister of Labour and Social Security Pernell Charles Jr., who is currently grappling with improving the delivery of public service across ministries. Some things are non-negotiable.
Productivity for us at the Ministry of Labour and Social Security is efficiency. It means operational efficiency, prioritizing human-centered excellence as a cornerstone of success. As the president of the JMEA said a while ago, the reality is etiquette and all of the things you'll discuss today are critical. Our grandmothers would put it, you must have manners. Here's the truth. Our future competitiveness depends greatly on service excellence. Our workers, it's non-optional. We must combine technical know-how with what we call emotional intelligence, so that whenever we communicate effectively, we respond promptly, and we resolve conflicts.
For the private sector, it could mean losing a customer or reputational damage for the brand. However, in recognition that the state has a monopoly on the provision of a number of essential services, the minister made the following admission.
Those of you here and those who are listening in the public sector, you see how wide my eyes are? In the government circle, the public sector, that's where we really have to do some work in terms of how we allow our customers, our clients to feel when they walk into our parish offices, into the tax office. I understand your concern. Let me see how I can help you. Simple things like that can change somebody's entire experience. We in Jamaica, particularly a country dependent on the hospitality industry, it's critical for us to drive service excellence. In heart, it is one of the areas